who's here. Everybody turn around.
I know.
Give her a hand. We have missed you, and so glad to see you
I
here.
haven't had a hand in a long time.
If you stay long enough, we might do a standing ovation. You just never know. So, good afternoon, everybody. How is everybody feeling?
Great.
Alrighty.
Hi.
Lynn, that plastic bag on the chair in front of you is for you. I put it on the wrong chair. Yes, it's for you. And it'll seem like an odd thing, but it's for you. It's a bag of cilantro. Long story behind that.
Since you do not like
Since I don't like it, it's a long story. Yes, indeed. So, the one thing we've been waiting to do for every Sunday in August
Yes.
is to sing happy birthday to this gentleman in the back.
Yes.
And he has made it for the last day of August, so we are happily going to sing happy birthday to Rich.
Good.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Rich. Happy birthday to you. And of course we know why he's been absent, because he's been pulling wonderful things from the garden and from the earth. And there's produce out in the hallway, and it's just amazing.
Thank you.
It's beautiful. It's just beautiful. I don't know how he does it.
And he did not bring a grocery cart.
And food is love.
Food is love, and growing food is even
Very.
stronger love, because you've actually created it with your own two hands. You've planted, you've tilled, you've picked, you've done all those things, and that makes it really special. So, thank you for that. Any announcements or anything we need to know? Anybody needs to tell us? Anybody?
I'd like to ask for prayer for a friend of mine.
Prayer for a friend of yours?
Having mysterious problems.
Okay, mysterious health problems. Let's include Sandra's friend in our opening prayer when we get there.
And I have another prayer for a friend of my mom's who just lost her son to cancer.
Oh dear.
He's in his
Okay.
50s, so it's not.
That's a toughie. Losing the kids is a toughie. And Lynn, you had a suggestion?
No.
Or announcement? No? Okay.
No, but I have a comment.
A comment, yes.
No, we're having our last book.
Yes, our last class of the series is this Tuesday, and then we'll have a 2-week hiatus, and then we'll be back at it again. Anything else? And once again, thank you, Nona, for being our hostess.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
It's amazing, yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
Hostess with the mostest. We really appreciate that. Okay, so if there's nothing else, we're going to go right into our opening hymn. If you look in your bulletins, you will find this little handout. We're just going to do a simple sing-along with the celebration choir. It's a sentiment that we can all get behind. We are one, we are one. I am you, you are me, we are one. And in this unity we all live in harmony, and peace has come, for we are one. We are one, we are one. I am you, you are me, we are one. And in this unity we all live in harmony, and peace has come, for we are one. And peace has come, for we are one. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And now if you just sit back, take a deep breath. Take a couple deep breaths. Release everything that is running around in your head. Find your calm place, your happy place, your peaceful place. Take more deep breaths. Relax into your chair. And consider who you are. our souls, we see reflected there the image of God, of the Creator of Spirit. We know that as we walk through the world, we are the ambassadors of love and kindness. We know that we are presenting to the world one of the many, many faces of the divine. And we let that divine shine out. We see it on our faces when we look in the mirror. We feel it in our hearts. We know that we heal the world. And today we also call into our awareness those who are in suffering and pain and loss. And we send to them a full measure of divine love. For it is only love that heals the wounds that afflict. Today we say thank you, thank you, thank you for this gathering, for these people, for this beautiful location, and most of all for the love that we share that supports each and every one of us as we walk through the world supported by the promises of God. And let us say together, and so it is. Amen. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And now we have Sandra, part 2. Part 2. Let's give her a hand.
Of course, I can't remember exactly where I left off last week. But as what we were doing last week, or what I was doing, was reading from notes I made of a talk that Neil Donald Walsh gave on Mind Valley, which was really explaining how he was going to give a 21-day course. But this was an hour of really profound teaching, and it really touched me. And so it's not something I usually do, but I took many, many notes. And his premise is your life is not about you. It's about everyone you touch in life and the way in which you touch them. Now, if you just did that, that would work. Okay, it's over. I started to say last week that he was talking about highly evolved beings. And highly evolved beings have eliminated violence completely and utterly from their civilization. Then he started talking about walking down the street with a spiritual woman friend of his, and they saw a person leaning against a building, tippling something out of a brown paper bag. And Neil said, "Oh, there, but for the grace of God, go I." And he's thinking, he's pretty full of himself saying that. And his friend said, "There you go, being God." And she asked him to make a spiritual practice for a while of walking down the street and saying, "There I go again. There I go again. There I go again, not being able to stop drinking. There I go again, helping a lady across the street. There I go again, feeding a parking meter. There I go again, dropping litter." And he said that gave him such an incredible sense of connection that it really touched his life. And he said, "You're always seeing a reflection of who you are." And then he took it a little further and he said to start saying, "Whatever you see, I am that." Of course, this gets into the the teaching about the I am that I am. I am that. And to love it all. And he said, and then you need to remember that all you touched are helped because you came through your lives. Make sure you never walk through any human being's life, but that it is made better because you did. There is no right or wrong. There is only what is effective, given what it is that you're trying to do. Know what you're trying to do. If it's make someone's life better, then the next action arises spontaneously inside of you. Get clear what you're trying to do, broadly in your life, and then ask yourself frequently, what am I trying to do here? He said, you can be in a conversation and just think to yourself, what am I trying to do here? Am I trying to be present? Am I trying to manipulate? Am I trying to impress? Am I trying to whatever? Let's see. And he said that there's a life magic question. Before you make any decision to do anything, what does this have to do with the agenda of my soul? So he said, this is good. He said, you're thinking about getting married, you're thinking about buying a car, you're thinking about, what does this have to do with the agenda of my soul? The agenda of the soul is to recreate yourself anew in every moment in the next grandest version of the greatest vision you have ever held about who you are. If you were to serve that vision in every action, your life would suddenly turn into an ongoing, continuing, and never-ending miracle. And then he said, who I am and what I am doing is the next grandest notion of who I am.
Thank you, and I really love the idea of everything we do in our lives, every life we touch makes a difference. It matters, whether it's for good or not so good. It doesn't. It's not that just the good things matter. It's that everything we do matters. And this morning, hang on one second. This morning, Russell was talking about a woman that he knows who is part of a group called Orange County Kindness. Is that what it's called? Kindness Society, which I just love the idea that there's a kindness society. And I said, I think all of our Heartlighters are kindness ambassadors. And I think about the many things all of you have done, you've talked about. I remember Missy and stopping to help the man with the suitcases, on the road and turning around and saying, can I help you? And all the good deeds. I know that Paula volunteers, Susan does many things for people. The other day in a restaurant, it was one of those places where you take your own things to the trash, your own papers and plate and everything. And there was a lady struggling with her cane and her plates and her handbag, and Lynn happened to be there. And I saw her without a moment's hesitation turn around and take the garbage, say, let me take that. And the woman was like, oh, thank you. Because she was about to drop her cane, she was about to drop the plates. These are the things and I've seen Craig walk through a parking lot and pick up a bottle, pick up a piece of trash. These are the things you all do, all of you. And I thank you for that, because everything you do makes a difference in the world. So with that in mind, let us talk about growing up. I do want to grow up. How many of you feel like you're completely grown up? How many of you think you might have a little, I'm talking spiritually, not in our
Oh.
physical bodies.
I thought you meant,
No, this, I feel I definitely have grown up by 62. I hope I'm grown up. So, no, in terms of our souls, do you think you're completely grown up yet? No. We're working on that. But when I started to write this talk, was hearing that song, I Don't Want to Grow Up, what is it, from Peter Pan or something? So,
Toys
that's,
R Us.
What?
Toys R Us.
Or Toys R Us, yeah. Exactly, it's in a commercial as well, which is why the title on the front of your bulletin I crossed out, I don't, and put do. So, many times we hear from people who want to give us good advice, and they say, oh, just keep going. As if it's easy. Just keep going. But you know, by adding one letter to that phrase, we could describe our inner mission in this lifetime. The outer, we know, is being of service. The inner is just keep growing. Just keep growing. So I was thinking about the process, and over the years, we've had many theme words, and in January we'll review all of our theme words again. And all of them apply to our journey. There are those among us who will ask from time to time, why am I here again? Usually we come up with the answer because we've been studying this, we've been paying attention to this. Some people will say, you know what? Enough with all the principles and the spiritual learning and the yada yada yada. I just want to know if there's a point to my life. The answer is an unequivocal yes. How disheartening would it be if there were no point to it? And there are people who believe that they're born, they live, they die, and they're done. And there's not a single thing that comes after. I find that kind of depressing. That it's just a journey from birth to death. And then getting the heck out of Dodge. But I just think there's more to it than that. So having learned all the stuff that we've learned, is there a point to following a spiritual path? Is there a greater reason than simply getting wiser? And it goes back to Sandra's talk, or reading, which is to do good. To do good, to touch lives. I believe that however many lives we live, however many realities we experience, there's a thread that ties them all together. Okay, all together. There is a unifying theme, if you will, that we are the creator of our lives. Okay? And we experience how we can in turn create with the power that was given to us by our own creator. So there's many potentialities, many things out there that we could do, and we're always expanding and we're always creating. But this is the thing that some people find difficult. If you're going to do it, be flexible. How many of you are flexible with your plans? No, I've got it all mapped out, thank you very much. I've got a list, I've got a checklist, and I can do this. In my new work as a realtor, they give us checklists and checklists and checklists. So it's like, okay, fine. But you know what, in a spiritual path, no. You don't have a bunch of books you check off. Well, I've read Science of Mind. I've read Neil Donald Walsh. I've read this, I'm done, I'm good. That ain't gonna happen. So, we have to be flexible. We do not like to be flexible, and we are not overly fond of change, which seem to go hand in hand. We are skeptical of any outcome if we have not been given a detailed explanation of why and what's coming next. We would prefer that. How often is that going to happen? Not ever. But despite our human stubbornness, ever since that first speck of life, whatever it is you think it is, appeared on the planet, beings who have chosen to make a home here, which we have chosen, and have gotten more and more advanced. I will say not always in a beneficial way, but mostly. In our case, and for Heartlight community purposes, we're pretty accustomed to being flexible and keeping open minds and learning and doing our best in the world. We also understand that we will give people, and this is one of the things that the Neil Donald Walsh comment is about, are you giving people a chance to be the best they are, or the best they could be? Because the moment you put them into a category, there's a drunk, there's a beggar, there's a thief, there's a teen who's up to no good probably. You have eliminated any chance of them rising to the next step with your assistance and with your love and with your energy. So just keep that in mind. It's like the song we had, Images of God, at the beginning. It says, we are here not to judge, we are here to love. So we do all that we do in service to the truth. Our ego minds think they know the truth. That would be the small t. And our souls have the big T. okay? That truth is independent and much greater than the mere circumstances of this life. Many people have grasped that. But as, again, Neil said, you keep thinking this is about you. How many of you have always thought it's about you, or at least when you were younger, you thought it's all about me? It's about my goals, my stuff I need to do, my ambitions. And eventually you came to a spiritual place where you said, maybe it isn't all about me. Maybe it's about me vis-a-vis other beings on the planet. So if you look back, the human species has come a long way since the days of, Homo sapiens was one of the first, human forms. And our technology, God knows our technology has grown. Some of you have been left behind and a little annoyed by that. It's growing in leaps and bounds. We could do things today that would seem like magic or witchcraft to anybody 100 years ago, right? Can you imagine somebody in the 17th century if you whip out your big lighter? Witch, witch! They'd have you burned at the stake in no time. So we can do all these things. We made huge strides. Sadly, along the way, with all our technology, we've also come up with increasingly creative and sophisticated ways to kill each other on a large scale, big scale. Mostly because our spiritual evolution hasn't quite kept up with our technology. So let me ask you, if you had a child, about yay high, 7, 8 years old maybe, would you hand him a loaded gun and say, go play? No. The problem is sometimes we as a species get a little ahead on the technology and a little behind on when to use it and when not to. So envisioning a world where only peace exists is something we keep needing to focus on. We have yet to reach a state of such pure consciousness that our thoughts are always benign. How many of you had a week of entirely benign thoughts? Not one negative. Not a day.
An hour?
An hour. How many of you have driven in traffic for an hour and not said, oh, for crying out loud, get out of the road, drive it or park it? Okay, well, see, we just fell right off there. That's okay, because we do. But what is interesting is that we notice that we fell right off. We go, I'm sorry. As we drive by, we don't do anything rude. We just say, bless you, bless you, bless you. Okay, fine. So I don't think that we want to see the manifestation of every one of our thoughts. We've used the classic examples, oh, drop dead. No, we would not like to see that, okay? Go suck an egg. Well, that's not too bad, but There's all kinds of things we have said to people that we really don't want to happen, but we think them. All the thousands of thoughts we have, there's quite a jumble. But we have our consciousness, we're achieving our consciousness, we're working very hard on that. We are not standing still, we're growing, right? Everybody in this room is growing. It doesn't matter how old you are, you're still every day making a stride, discovering something else. We are reaching out with kindness and empathy to the people around us, and we also have to be sure, as I mentioned recently, that when you go to do something for someone, do what they need. Do what they want. Not what you think is good for them. Not what you would like in that situation. See the world through their eyes. The comment that the woman made to Neil Donald Walsh, and Linda has talked about that there, but for the grace of God go I, makes us sound so darn special. Think about the fact she said, there go I, there I am. In some lifetime, you have been addicted. In some lifetime, you have been a jerk. In some lifetime, you have committed crimes. You have done cruel things. But in as many or more lifetimes, which is why you've gotten to this point, you have done kind things. You have done loving things. You have sacrificed. You have loved. You have given. So we don't need to go around saying that person does not have the grace of God looking after them. Really? Would we ever think that? No. So we look at the world, we don't put our heads in the sand or wrap ourselves in a cocoon and cut ourselves off from the world. That isn't what our souls want, that isn't what our souls came to do. However, once we get settled in here on earth, we find about 72,000 things to be afraid of. And fear-based thinking is everywhere. Don't go out in the dark. Don't walk through that neighborhood. Don't talk to those kind of people. Those people are dangerous. If you don't do what you're told at work, you'll lose your job. If you don't save up now, you won't have anything for retirement. How many things do you think you've heard in your lifetime that were about fear? That said, be afraid, be very afraid. Well, you know, change and flexibility are not to be feared. If you want your life to be the same old, humdrum, same thing every day, you're not going to grow. Ralph Waldo Emerson observed, he said, people wish to be settled. Don't we love that? Settled, we're all set. He said, people wish to be settled, yet only as far as they are unsettled is there any hope for their advancement.
You say that again.
Okay, people wish to be settled. However, he said, only as far as they are unsettled is there any hope for their advancement. In other words, you have to have the unsettling moments. You have to have the times when you go, Jesus, Mary, and Joseph, I don't know what to do. You have to have them for your advancement. We must be unsettled, in motion, ready to act. Remember the old commercial was some financial company about stability in motion? It was some stockbroking thing with a bicycle. And we said, well, a bicycle, how stable is a bicycle when you're not moving? Just the two-wheel kind. When you're moving, we're good. So you got to keep moving. We have been asleep in the past from the consciousness standpoint. And by the way, when you have those days, I just say, well, I needed a nap. I'll wake up again in just a little while. So we have to wake up, we have to grow up. So what does that mean? Well, for one thing, we have to give up stuff. I don't mean we can't have stuff. God knows I love stuff. I mean that we don't think of what we own as our primary concern, or that it's representative of who we are. Many people in this world buy things because they think it tells the world, I'm successful, I'm rich, but it doesn't. I don't hear I'm happy, I don't hear I'm enlightened, I don't hear I have a purpose in life. I hear that you can afford a Bentley. Okay, but that isn't who you are. So the other thing we do is we give up the blame game, and that's why I put that little cartoon on the back of your bulletins, is I just love it when you blame everybody else for your life, whatever's going on. We have to give up some things we're very fond of. Cynicism. How many of you have been cynical? Martyrdom. Control issues. Oh, yes. How about grudges? Got any grudges? Here's even Jan going, I think so. Resentments. Wounds.
Keep going.
I just keep going. The basket's not full yet.
How many of you have felt greedy? Greedy, like I really want that, I'm not getting my share. We've done that. Like the biggest piece of pie, you're like, are you going to really eat all that? That's my pie. Do it. It's okay. But we can give up the mentality of lack, we can give up anger, we can give up vengeance, we can give up anxiety and disappointment and fretting about every single thing we did or didn't do. We can give up the hobby, and this is a hobby, by the way, of criticizing. We like to think of it as helping others see where they went wrong. Exactly, it's a helping tool. The list is really long. And there may be some items to which we're teensy bit attached. So there's a fair question to ask. What's in it for me? If I give up all these things I like doing, like criticizing, judging, having grudges, I like that stuff. What's in it for me? These are my lifelong companions. I've kept them with me forever. Because it sounds like it's for everybody else, not me. And interestingly, there's a much shorter list of what you get when you say, okay, I'm going to dump those. They can go. Here's the short list. Peace of mind. Tranquility of heart, a realization of infinite love. Do you think those are a worthy replacement for all the other crap? I kind of do. By giving up what we don't need, we gain everything our soul desires, and it sounds to me like a heck of a bargain. But some people are very practical. All of us are practical. And I've heard this said more than once, and this kind of sums it up. Better the devil you know than the angel you haven't met. This is why people stay in abusive relationships. Better the devil you know. This is why people keep doing things that are kind of okay and kind of not okay. Because they know it. They know how to do it. This is why a person might not branch out into a whole new job. They go, well, you know, I really know how to do this job. I would really be happier over in this job, but I don't know what's going to be entailed. So I can't really take a risk. But that idea is just a rationalization. So let me ask you this, and actually it depends on who you are, how you answer. Would you keep on wearing shoes that hurt your feet?
No.
If you're a girl, yes. If you're a guy, probably not. But we get older, we learn, we start wearing flats, and we start doing things like that. But yes, basically, I should think of a different example because it doesn't apply to us girls, okay? So would you wear a piece of jewelry that poked you constantly and made you unhappy and uncomfortable? No, you wouldn't. Would you keep eating food that always makes you break out in hives? You go, but I really like it. I really like strawberries. Do you have some activity that always gives you a backache? Would you keep doing it? What about something that always gives you a heartache? Would you keep doing it? I don't think so. There are things in life that will challenge us, test our faith and our conviction, but we have to see with the eyes of God. The human mind has its own lens, and that lens looks for all the things that are wrong and dangerous, and that we should correct, and that we must interfere with, and that we must judge. It sees all those things. But we keep facing the dilemma as we go through life on what is most important to us. So let me ask you this. If a conflict could be completely resolved by a change of attitude, would it be worth it? If you just stopped being angry at someone, if that resulted in peace, would it be worth it? If understanding could be achieved by listening with an open mind and heart, why wouldn't we? Some people, are so accustomed to holding negative expectations, they think they function best when they're being in their negative self. When they're ready for the onslaught, ready for the attack, ready for that person who's going to hurt them. They think that's the way to be. It's kind of crisis and turmoil thinking. Some people equate the status quo with security, and the ego mind says, I think we'd like to go hang gliding, but it's so unsafe, so I'm not going. The soul's going, but I wanted to my whole life. No, it's very unsafe. It's a mindset. And if that is our mindset, what do we attract? It's very unsafe. Life is unsafe. But if we choose to fear nothing, and I do mean nothing, it is incredibly liberating. Have you ever heard anyone say, but I might lose everything? Or even I have lost everything? Were they speaking the truth? Not from a spiritual perspective, from a human emotional perspective, yes. Yes. But the spirit knows better. The soul knows better. It's temporary. So whatever we might perceive as risks as we choose to keep growing are nothing compared to the reward, so keep up with that. I mentioned those earlier: peace of mind, tranquility of heart, basking in the flow of the infinite, which, by the way, makes it ever so much easier to
Be loved.
Thanks. Let's do it again.
Be loved.
Thank you. Another reason some people resist the journey is, and I love this, it's a lot like work. This spirituality crap, it's a lot like work. You want me to read, you want me to learn, you want me to think. Yep. And it is. It's work. It's a lot like work. Sorry, but them's the breaks. That's how it goes. So the wonderful thing about us is that we always are able to see the high road. All of you in here have taken the high road and stay up there, pretty much all the time. We occasionally fall off. But and it's because we like the high road. When you were little, assuming you all had a fairly well-developed conscience, what happened when you did something wrong? Like you stole that candy bar. You told a lie. You took your friend's lunch. Did it feel good? Did it feel victorious? Did it feel really warm and fuzzy? I don't think so. But what happened when you did something really good and the teacher said, let's say thank you to Missy because she gets a gold star today because she sharpened everybody's pencils. She went up there and did her little job. Does that feel good? Yes, it does. I heard a motivational speaker talking recently about what we have going through these little brains of ours. And he said, the brain is a supercomputer. Incredibly powerful. As a matter of fact, we still don't know how it works. Super powerful, supercomputer. It can outcompute any machine on the planet. even a crazy supercomputer, doesn't matter. He said, and all our self-talk, which goes on pretty much every minute, is the program the supercomputer is using to operate. The language in our head, the thoughts in our head, the supercomputer's going, okie dokie. Let's be afraid. Let's find something that manifests that. It just does what it does. Okay? Remember garbage in, garbage out? What we put in, what we get out. So every time some book or seminar or teacher says, be mindful, don't blow it off. Like I have heard that 1,000 times and I'm so sick of people telling me to be mindful. Being mindful is not just a pretty good idea. It's the only idea. So we keep maturing because we are mindful and we understand that things are not always going to look the way we think they should. And we also, this is very important, when we see that person leaning up against the wall, drinking out of a paper bag, we've made certain assumptions, haven't we? That they're drunk, that they're poor, that they're homeless, that they're downtrodden, and on and on and on. What if that was just an eccentric person drinking their Pepto-Bismol? What if the person wasn't homeless, wasn't a beggar, wasn't a drunkard? You've already decided. Never assume. And a little story, this actually comes from the Sufi tradition. But you can think of Touched by an Angel. Think of Tess and her little comrades. 2 traveling angels stopped to spend the night in the home of a wealthy family. Now, the family doesn't know they're angels, just thinks they're visitors. They look like regular people, aren't wearing halos or carrying harps or anything. They just look like regular people. This family, although very wealthy, was not particularly hospitable. In fact, they were kind of rude because they didn't look like rich people who were visiting. They just looked like, So they didn't even offer the visitors a bedroom, and they had lots. But they gave them a small space on the floor of the basement. Here, you can stay there. So as the 2 angels made their beds on the hard floor, the older angel saw that there was a hole in the wall, in the masonry, and repaired it. And the younger angel said, why would you do that? Why would you help these people? They're creepy. And the older angel said, you know what? Things aren't always what they seem. The next night, the pair arrived at the home of a very poor but very hospitable farmer and his wife. And they shared what little food they had, freely. The couple insisted their guests sleep in the only bedroom, so they could have a good night's rest before they continued their journey. And when the sun rose in the morning, the angels found the farmer and his wife in tears. Their only cow, this is very valuable, their only cow, their sole source of income and milk, had died during the night. Sorry, Susan, I know you hate it when the animals die.
It's just a story.
It's just a story. Now, the younger angel is absolutely furious. And she says angrily, that rude family yesterday, you helped fix their house. And now these kind folks share everything they have, and you let their cow die. And the older angel said, you know what? Things aren't always what they seem. And the younger angel says, well, I don't get it. And the older angel says, let me explain. You weren't really paying attention. When we stayed in the basement of that beautiful mansion, I noticed, because of it, there was a hole where there was mortar missing. And I could see a glint of gold where someone had stored or hidden a great mass of gold by someone else. So since the family was so obsessed with greed and so obsessed with money, I fixed the hole. And the younger angel says, okay, you got me, fine, whatever. What about the cow? That's not fair, really. And the older angel, this is kind of a test thing to say, she says, well, last night, as we slept in the farmer's room, the angel of death came for his wife. And I asked the angel to take the cow instead. You see, things aren't always what they seem. That's what we have to remember. There are all kinds of morals to the story, one of which is don't be a jerk to your visitors. It's very simple. But rather more important is that we cannot jump to conclusions about events and situations, and we can't judge them and put them away in a in a drawer and say, we've now categorized that. That's right, that's wrong. So why? Well, we have Spirit's promise that because this entire universe is the product of a loving creator, everything happens for a reason. We don't have to like it.
Was it a quick death?
It was a very quick death. The cow just dropped where it was. Just never knew what happened, and his little cow soul went to heaven. Okay.
And he's playing in the field.
And is playing in fields, the Elysian fields somewhere in heaven, yes. So if we're going to jump to any conclusion, why don't we jump to the conclusion that there's a reason? We don't know it, can't see it, but we trust. That's been one of our words. We trust in God. It's really hard sometimes. It's easy to trust God when life is really great. It is hard to trust God when life really sucks. That's the way it is. So we start with the expectation that everything in the greatest picture of all, this entire cosmos, comes out perfectly. So what if you were to look in the mirror? I know we all do have to at some point. And what if all you saw was your perfection? How many of you can pick out your flaws in the mirror? Mostly the women. Okay, we're just used to doing it. What if you looked in the mirror and you said, hey, you beautiful being you, what fabulous things are you going to do today? Wouldn't that be cool? Instead of, I really should get that facelift thing going. How about if you see your perfection? If you have the least doubt that you're perfect, I will refer you to our founder, Dr. Ernest Holmes, who wrote, if we are of God, and an inalienable part of that creative force which spoke us into being, as in the beginning there was the Word, then that which is true of God or the whole must be true of the part. If you draw a drop of water out of the ocean, does it have salt in it? Is it just like the ocean, except that it's now a drop over here? And he said that which is true of God is goodness, peace, harmony, abundance,